In April 2014, two young Dutch women, best friends on the adventure of their lives, walked onto a trail in western Panama and were never seen alive again. What they left behind: a camera, 2 phones, and 90 photographs taken in the middle of the night, has haunted investigators, researchers, and ordinary people across the world for over a decade. This is the story of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. Kris Kremers was 21 years old. She was studying cultural social education at Utrecht University, with a focus on art. People who knew her described someone curious and warm, a little idealistic. The kind of person who wanted to understand the world rather than just move through it. Lisanne Froon was 22. She had just finished her degree in applied psychology. Smart, grounded, responsible. Someone her friends trusted. Someone who, by all accounts, had her head on straight. They'd known each other for years. When they decided to move in together, they also decided to do something bigger, something that would mark the transition from student life into whatever came next. For 6 months, they planned a trip to Panama. Not just a holiday, but a real trip. They would volunteer with local children, help at a school, pick up some Spanish, and while they were at it, see one of the most biodiverse corners of the planet. They waited tables at a restaurant called In Den, Klein and Hop, to save up the money. They researched the route. They planned everything carefully. They arrived in Panama on March 15th, 2014. For the next 2 weeks, everything went fine. Better than fine, actually. Panama is extraordinary, lush and loud and alive in a way that Northern Europe simply is not. They toured the country, took photographs, sent updates home. By March 29th, they had made it to Baqué, a small mountain town in the Carigui province in the far west of the country. Beautiful place. Known for its coffee, its flower festivals, its hospitality. Safe by any reasonable measure. One of the safer towns in one of the safer countries in Central America. They moved in with a local host family and began preparing for their volunteer work at a nearby school. But classes did not start right away. They had a few unexpected free days. So on the morning of April 1st, 2014, Kris and Lisanne decided to go for a hike, some obscure backcountry route. It is a well-established, well-traveled hike, roughly 2.5 miles long, climbing up 1,900 feet to a scenic overlook above the rolling jungle hills. Hikers do it regularly. It is the kind of trail that experienced hikers call easy to moderate. You do not need a guide. You do not need specialist gear. Some accounts say Kris and Lisanne took a dog with them that morning, one belonging to the owners of a restaurant near the trailhead. The dog apparently came back without them. There are also reports that they had brunch earlier that morning with 2 young Dutchmen they had met in town. Nothing unusual there. Just a good morning before a hike. At around 11 a.m., they waved goodbye to their host, family, and set off. They had their phones. They had Lisanne's Canon PowerShot camera. They had some water, sunglasses, and a small amount of cash. They were dressed for a day hike. Kris in denim shorts, both of them in boots. No flashlights, aside from whatever their phones could provide. No emergency supplies, no map. Though there may have been a tourist pamphlet of Baqué tucked in the bag, they had no particular reason to bring anything more than that. They expected to be back before dinner. The next morning, they missed an appointment with a local guide. That was when people started to worry. Initially, the search was local. Police, some volunteers, people who knew the trail. But by April 6th, 5 days after the girls disappeared, their families had already flown to Panama, and they did not come alone. Dutch detectives arrived. Dog units, police from both countries. A coordinated, full-scale search operation launched into the cloud forests surrounding the Baru volcano. For 10 days they swept the jungle. Helicopters, ground teams, every section of trail they could access. They found nothing. The families offered a $30,000 reward for any information. The case was international news. Back in the Netherlands, people who had never heard of Baqué were suddenly following updates in real time, refreshing pages, hoping. Days turned into weeks. The search continued in various forms, but the jungle, ancient and dense and uncompromising, gave nothing back. 10 weeks passed. And then, on June 14th, a local woman from the small village of Alto Romero, a community in the Bocas del Toro province, well beyond the main El Pianista route, turned in a blue backpack. She said she found it by a riverbank near the Culebra River. Locals claimed it had not been there the day before. That backpack belonged to Lisanne Froon. Inside the backpack were 2 pairs of sunglasses, $88 in cash, essentially untouched. Lisanne's insurance card, a water bottle, 2 sports bras, Lisanne's Canon PowerShot camera, and both of their phones. Kris's iPhone 4 and Lisanne's Samsung Galaxy S3. Both phones still contained recoverable data, and what investigators found on those devices would reframe everything. The phones told the story of the first 10 days after the women vanished, and it was not the story anyone expected. Starting on the afternoon of April 1st, roughly 6 hours after they left the house, someone tried to call emergency services. At 4:39 p.m., Kris's iPhone placed a call to 112, the international emergency number used across Europe and parts of Latin America. 12 minutes later, at 4:51 p.m., Lisanne Samsung tried 911, the Panamanian emergency number. Neither call went through. No signal. Over the following days, the calls continued. 77 separate emergency call attempts are logged across both phones. Dozens of them, again and again and again, into a jungle that absorbed every signal without returning anything. Only one call ever made contact. It lasted 2 seconds. Whatever was said, if anything was said at all, was never recovered. On April 4th, Lisanne's phone battery died after 5 a.m. It was never used again. Kris's iPhone continued. It was turned on and off intermittently, searching for signal, as iPhones do when a network is unavailable. Between April 5th and April 11th, the phone was powered on multiple times. But something strange. Each time, the PIN code was entered incorrectly, or not entered at all. The phone kept failing to unlock with the correct code. Someone was trying to access it and failing. On April 11th, the phone was switched on at 10:51 a.m. At 11:56 a.m., 65 minutes later, it was turned off for the last time. After that, nothing. 10 days of desperate, methodical attempts to reach someone, anyone, and then silence. Now the photographs. This is the part of the case that people struggle with. The part that sits wrong no matter how many explanations you stack on top of it. Lisanne's Canon PowerShot camera contained photos from the entire trip. Cheerful, ordinary tourist shots from their time across Panama. Bouquet, the trail, smiling faces in good light. And then, on the evening of April 8th, the camera was used again, deep in the jungle, in near total darkness. 90 photos were taken, using the camera's flash 90 photos at night. In the jungle, the images are disorienting. Mostly they show what you would expect from a flash in total darkness. A narrow cone of harsh white light illuminating whatever is immediately in front of the lens. Then nothing. Black. But some images show specific things. A twig or stick with what appeared to be small plastic bags tied to it, placed on a rock face near what might be a ravine or a riverbank. What looks like a backpack strap. What looks like a mirror, also placed on a rock. And one photo showing the back of Kris Kremers' head. There is something else. Some of the photos that were apparently taken were later missing from the camera's memory. Numbers in the sequence do not line up. Whether the camera malfunctioned, whether images were deliberately deleted, or whether the numbering is simply a result of multiple photography sessions, that remains disputed. What we know is this. Someone was in that jungle, at night, 7 days after the women first disappeared, taking photographs in the dark, with a flash camera. And the best explanation most researchers can offer is that it was one or both of the women themselves. Why? Nobody knows. Signaling disorientation, some kind of attempt to document where they were. Psychological distress manifesting in behavior that from the outside reads as incomprehensible. Or something else entirely. The discovery of the backpack prompted new searches along the Culebra River, the Serpent River, as locals call it, and what they found, piece by piece, was devastating. Kris Kremers' denim shorts were found lying on a narrow rock on the opposite bank of a tributary, a few kilometers from where the backpack had been discovered. Then, 2 months later, closer to where the backpack was found, a pelvis and a boot were recovered. The boot had a foot inside it. Over the following weeks, at least 33 bones were found along the same riverbank, widely scattered, spread across a significant distance. DNA testing confirmed what everyone feared. The remains belonged to Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. In total, approximately 10% of Lisanne's remains were recovered. For Kris, it was around 5%. The jungle, the river, the time, something had taken almost everything. But what remained raised more questions than it answered. A Panamanian forensic anthropologist examined the bones carefully, including under magnification. The conclusion was striking. There were no discernible scratches of any kind on the bones, neither of natural nor cultural origin. No marks. No cut marks. No signs of animal predation either, which is unusual in jungle conditions over such an extended period of time. More unusual still, while parts of Lisanne Froon's remains still retained some soft tissue, Kris Kremers' bones appeared bleached, white. Forensic analysis found unusually high phosphorus levels in Kris's bones, levels that did not match the surrounding soil conditions. What does that mean? Nobody has been able to say definitively. Dutch physician Frank van de Goot, who worked on the case and traveled to Bokeh himself, examined Lisanne's left foot, found intact inside her boot. He reported multiple fractures in the metatarsal bones, fractures that, in his professional assessment, could only have been caused by a fall from a significant height, and importantly, likely, while Lisanne was still alive. That single detail has shaped the most widely accepted working theory of what happened. The El Pianista Trail is, by all accounts, manageable on the way up, but the summit is a ridgeline, and beyond that ridgeline, the terrain drops away dramatically. The other side of the mountain is a different world, steep, dense, remote, cut through by river systems that flood fast and flood hard during rainy season. There are no marked paths. There is no trail. The jungle, there is not a recreational space. It is ancient and indifferent. The prevailing theory, endorsed cautiously by investigators, goes something like this. Kris and Lisanne made it to the summit, or close to it. Somewhere on the descent, or perhaps near the top, something went wrong. They got disoriented, or took a wrong turn, or followed the dog, or simply missed the trail in a moment of inattention. They crossed the ridge and began descending the wrong side. Once on the wrong side, getting out is not a simple matter of turning around. The vegetation is too dense, the terrain too broken. And then the emergency calls start, about 6 hours into the hike. By 4:30 in the afternoon, they know something is wrong. They are trying to reach someone. As night falls, they have no flashlights. They have limited water. Whatever food they brought, a Pringles lid appearing in one of the night photos suggests there was at least a snack, will not last at some point. Possibly early, possibly later. One or both of the women sustains a serious injury. Lisanne's foot fractures suggest a fall, perhaps from a rock face. Perhaps while trying to navigate the river terrain in the dark. A broken foot in that environment, without medical assistance, is not just painful, it is incapacitating. The theory holds that one of them, possibly Kris, dies first, perhaps from injury, perhaps from exposure or exhaustion. That would explain the attempts on April 6 to unlock her phone with incorrect PIN codes. It may have been Lisanne, alive, but in desperate condition, unable to remember or access Kris's PIN. Survival expert Clint Emerson, brought in by journalists covering the case, noted that what little evidence existed was consistent with two people who were trying, methodically and bravely trying, under conditions that were becoming increasingly unsurvivable. And the night photos, the 90 flash photographs taken in darkness on April 8th. One of the more grounded interpretations is that they were an attempt at signaling, not to anyone visible, but on the off chance that a search helicopter might catch a flash in the darkness from above. Or perhaps they were an attempt at navigation, using the flash to see the terrain one brief explosion of light at a time. Or perhaps, and this is the hardest one to sit with, One of them was simply documenting, bearing witness to wherever they were, to whatever was happening. For whoever might eventually find the camera, survival researchers have described Lisanne's behavior in those final days as impressively brave. She did not stop. She kept trying, right up until the signal went dead. But here's the thing about this case. The accident theory, plausible as it is, does not sit clean. It never has. The backpack appeared clean and dry, despite being found during Panama's rainy season. Locals said it had not been there the day before, which is a strange thing to say about an item supposedly sitting in that spot for 10 weeks. The denim shorts were found on a rock in a location that makes little geographic sense for the accident theory. Some reports described them as neatly folded. Others said they were simply lying there. That detail has never been fully resolved, and it matters. There is no version of a hiking accident where you would expect to find folded shorts on a riverbank. Kris's bones appear bleached with anomalous phosphorus levels that do not match the local environment. The forensic anthropologist found no marks on the bones whatsoever. No scratches, no signs of animal predation, nothing in tropical jungle. In a river system, after 10 weeks or more, that is unusual. And the geography itself raises a question that researchers have never fully answered. How did two women lost on the Panama-facing side of the El Pianista Trail end up with their remains scattered along the Culebra River in the Bocas del Toro province, on the opposite side of the country's continental divide, 14 kilometers north of where they were last known to be? That is not an impossible distance in 10 weeks. River systems move things. The rainy season is brutal. Floodwaters travel, but 14 kilometers in the right direction, with a backpack that appeared dry and largely intact. Some researchers say the current could account for it. Others are not convinced. Then there is the question of third-party involvement. The case has attracted serious independent researchers. Over the years, Dutch investigators, forensic specialists, journalists from major publications, and dedicated communities of researchers across multiple countries have all examined the evidence. And while some remain convinced of foul play, citing the anomalous bone chemistry, the clean backpack, the missing photos, others have systematically worked through the most specific claims and found them to fall apart under scrutiny. One persistent theory involved a photograph that circulated online purporting to show Kris and Lisanne at a party with individuals allegedly connected to criminal activity. Independent researchers who traveled to Bouquet and personally met the people in the photo concluded that the women in it were not Kris and Lisanne at all. That theory collapsed. Panamanian authorities drew heavy criticism for their handling of the investigation. The initial search was slow. Chain of evidence handling was questioned. Communication between Dutch and Panamanian investigators was inconsistent, whether that represents corruption, deliberate concealment, or simply the institutional failures of an underfunded regional police force. Dealing with an unprecedented international case, that too remains an open question. The official cause of death was never formally classified. The case remains, technically, unsolved. In 2021, a team of independent researchers traveled to Panama and hiked beyond the El Pianista Trail into the remote terrain on the other side of the divide. They camped in the jungle. They took photographs at night using the same model of Canon camera Lisanne carried in roughly the same conditions to try to understand what those 90 flash images might actually tell us. Their conclusion was that the photographs were consistent with someone alive and mobile in that area, near a river or ravine, using the flash in a dark and unfamiliar environment, possibly navigating, possibly signaling. They found no evidence of a camp, no physical traces from 2014. The jungle had absorbed everything. Forensic authors, Christian Hardinghouse and Annette Niner, spent months in Bacay and in conversation with investigators, witnesses, and researchers across multiple countries. Their conclusion, shared cautiously, was that the evidence points to something beyond a simple accident. The anomalous data on the phones, the bleached bones, the logistics of where and how the remains appeared. They stopped short of naming a perpetrator because there is none to name, but they argued that dismissing these deaths as accidental is premature. Others disagree. Survival experts, forensic geologists, and experienced jungle hikers have argued that every anomaly in this case has a natural explanation. Improbable, uncomfortable, and deeply sad. More than a decade has passed. The trail still exists. Hikers still walk it. The cloud forest around the Baru volcano is still one of the most extraordinary natural environments on the planet. And somewhere in that landscape, in the river sediment, in the soil, in whatever the jungle chose to keep, are the answers that never made it back. What we know is this. 2 women entered a jungle on a clear morning in April 2014. For at least 8 days. One of them was taking photographs in the dark on the 8th night. And then the signal stopped.